Zack Snyder is back with a brand new zombie flick. It's heading to Netflix next week, but it's in theaters this week. And I got the lowdown if you guys should definitely be checking out Army of the Dead. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new movie review of Army of the Dead, the latest Netflix original film debuting in theaters this week and premiering on Netflix next week. And this is following a zombie outbreak in Las Vegas. A group of mercenaries take on the ultimate gamble of venturing into the quarantine zone to pull off the greatest heist ever attempted. This is directed and written by Zack Snyder, one of my favorite personal directors. I just love his style, his visuals, everything that he kind of brings to the screen. He's a very original director when it comes to these original ideas, and even when he takes on certain superhero franchises, he's very much different and unique, and I always very much appreciate that. And I kind of just had to share that real fast, and I think that's going to be a big part if you really enjoy Army of the Dead or not. Army of the Dead is a movie that I have been really looking forward to. If you're new to my channel, you probably don't know this, and you should probably hit that like and subscribe if you love talking movies. But the thing about Army of the Dead that I absolutely love, and in general, the biggest thing, the reason that I wanted to see the movie the most, is because it features two of my favorite things in the world: zombies and heist films. And it combines both of those elements in a very serenading way that I feel like Zack Snyder was the only director that would be able to take on this concept and bring it to life. Now, this is a very in-depth film, and one that I feel like if you are a Zack Snyder fan, you're going to eat this shit up. If you're not a Zack Snyder fan, you're probably going to roll your eyes at certain things, or in general, just, it's not going to win you over in the end of the day. For me, one of the biggest things about this movie was, again, that entire concept coming to life and bringing it to life and making it work. And it worked overall for a majority of the runtime. One of the biggest things is all the cast. Every single one of the cast members in here does a really good job in bringing this kind of unique flair and personality to the group, to where, in the point of it all, they're all memorable for their own entire ways. Some of them I wish they got a little bit more character development, especially some of the more main focused ones on. But one of the things I do want to give a shout out on is I know it is most notably that Tig Notaro was actually recasted inside the film due to other circumstances. You can look into that if you want to. But I was a little bit worried how they were going to segue Tig into here. But honestly, let me tell you this. I have no idea. Like, the other actor that was supposed to be in here, the man we shall not name, this was the better casting. Like, flat out, I could not imagine him in this role. And I think casting Tig in here was absolutely the big standout. All the moments, the jokes, everything in those moments worked with her. And I loved her character. And again, you couldn't even tell. You couldn't even tell. They did a great job with that, and I think a lot of people probably aren't even going to know that it was a recast, but I really dug that. But the biggest character overall in this whole entire story was Dave Bautista himself. Again, someone I mentioned earlier that I really love seeing where his career has gone. This is probably one of his best performances. He is the leading soul of this entire movie, and he has a lot of strong relationships, a father-daughter relationship that he's very much important with, and in general, he's just badass in the action sequences, and he hits it hard in all the dramatic moments, and I loved him to pieces in this. I think this proves that this guy can lead a film on his own, and I adored him in Army of the Dead. I thought he was phenomenal. Again, this is a Zack Snyder movie. It has the Snyder-isms, but one of the things that I love about him is the way that he world builds and builds a mythology on top of layers. Now, yes, there's your typical zombies that shamble around and walk really slow, but there are some really cool ones in here that are a little bit more unique, a little bit smarter, a little bit more agile. And I love the depth that they were able to go into there, and that's all from Zack Snyder's brain, bringing in, hey, you know, we're going to do zombies, we're going to do a heist film, but we're also going to have, like, these bigger obstacles that could possibly get in the way. And, you know, you see some of this in the trailer, but they really go high in depth with this. And I didn't expect them to spend that much time with the actual main alpha zombie, but there's a lot more depth to that, and the parallels that it goes between that zombie and, of course, Dave Bautista was very interesting in the way that they were able to really locate that and finite it. And I don't think that's something that's going to be really much in the prevalent eyes of every single person that watches this, but I think many people will take that away and be like, that was a cool thing. And again, I think only Snyder could pull that off. And the visuals here are phenomenal. The opening credits, fucking great. I mean, it's probably some of the best opening credits I've seen. And Snyder's always been a great job at bringing to life those opening credits. I mean, look at Watchmen, for instance. This is great. This topples over it, and I loved it. It set the tone and the mood for a majority of the movie, and it just put a big smile on my face. And another big thing is I love seeing how Snyder films action, and all the action set pieces in here are amazing. I mean, they're tense. You're gripping your fans. You're gripping the edge of your seat if you're sitting in theaters or wherever you're sitting at, and you are holding on for dear life. The second they get into Vegas and they are moving through, every single thing, there is a twist, a turn, a shocking avenue here or there. Who's going to die next? Who might die next? What will happen to that character? You do not know. And again, the reveals and all those shocking moments is what keeps that horror vibe working so well. I hate it when I watch a horror movie and I'm sitting there, I'm like, all right, I know what's going to happen to that person. I know what's going to happen to that person. This movie takes those nice little twists and turns, but also plays on the cliches of horror and zombie movies in a fun and cheesy way that actually really worked for a majority of the film. I keep mentioning a majority of the film because I don't think this is a perfect film, but nonetheless, almost every zombie film isn't perfect. I would actually go as far to say, as my favorite zombie movies of all time, Army of the Dead strikes right up there, and I think it is one of the most quintessential zombie films to watch now, because yes, Zack Snyder did start his career with the remake of Dawn of the Dead, a film that I really much like. But the thing with Zack Snyder is he took the zombie franchise again and flipped it over and changed it a bit into his own style. And that's what I really liked about this. And that's why this is probably one of my favorite zombie films now out there. And one that, even though I think is flawed in some avenues, it's just one that I had such an utter blast with. That's where I kind of go down to one of the biggest aspects of this entire movie. And again, I kept mentioning a majority. The big part of that is I do think this film has some tonal shifts that do not mesh or fit. And I get it, if you wanted to do some dramatic avenues, if you wanted to have some comedy in there, that's okay. But the way that you segue into them, I think, were the most important parts. And I don't think it meshed that well perfectly. Yeah, all the one-liners are funny. You smile, you roll your eyes, you have fun with it. But when it goes back to the dramatic stuff, it feels a little bit too heavy at times. And I loved both of them. I just didn't think it segued or meshed together all too well. And again, actually added to the pacing of the movie to be a little bit slow. The movie is almost 2.5 hours, and I do feel like there was probably 20 minutes of this movie that you could have cut out, especially within the first act alone, setting up. They probably don't really get into any of the Vegas stuff within at least 45 minutes of the film, which again, when your premise is Army of the Dead, and you guys are going into Vegas to rob it, you would expect them to get into it a little bit faster. Now, again, those are just some of the small issues that I did have with this film, and even though I do find this film a little bit flawed, I still utterly enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see it again. One more major thing to kind of talk about in here before we kind of segue to the end is, of course, the cinematography and the score, all adding to such a great layer and already building on top of this movie, making it a ferocious effort. Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead is a return to form for Zack Snyder. I love him doing original concepts. And again, he took a zombie film and, I was like, oh yeah, he's doing another zombie film, but he literally changes dynamics and changes certain things that some things you see in the trailer, but there's a lot more depth added to that. He builds on this mythology, he builds on this world, and there's a lot more in here that I want to see. There's some questions I still had lingering by the end, like especially certain small details to the world where I was like, I don't get that. And maybe you'll have those same questions as well. And again, I do think the film is a little bit too long with, again, some slow pacing moments. And one of the biggest aspects for me was, again, the tonal shifts. That did it want to be a drama? Did it want to be a comedy? I laughed. I got emotional, and I love Dave Bautista in those emotional moments, but I feel like they really should have meshed them better, or at least decided on a tone they wanted to go through. This is overall pretty much a balls to the wall, utter blast of a zombie movie, that the kills are great, it's shocking, it has the horror cliches, but it also has those shocking twists and turns that you do not expect, and I loved all the reveals, and I loved really much a majority of this film. I had a blast with this. This is one of the reasons that I look forward to a Zack Snyder film every single time it's out, and that is why I'm going to give Army of the Dead an A-. If it wasn't for those small little issues I had, this probably would be one of my favorite movies of the year, but I absolutely adored it. I think Zack Snyder, again, knocks it out of the park. But if you're not a Zack Snyder fan, I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts as well, so make sure to comment down below your thoughts. Did you like Army of the Dead? Did you get to see it in theaters? Are you waiting until Netflix next week? Let's discuss it all down there. Make sure to also head on over to Samtron Films on how to see films early, and of course, just a big thank you to you, and a big thank you to my Patreon supporters, because without you, I wouldn't be able to do this. So of course, guys, until next time, stay classy.